On December 5th, 1872, sailors discovered something that would haunt maritime history forever. The merchant ship Mary Celeste was found floating perfectly intact in the Atlantic Ocean. Her cargo was untouched, her sails were set, but every single person on board had vanished without explanation. What happened to Captain Benjamin Briggs, his family, and 7 crew members remains one of history's most chilling, unsolved mysteries. Let me tell you about a ship that was basically cursed from day one. The Mary Celeste wasn't even called the Mary Celeste when she first hit the water back in 1861. She started life as the Amazon, launched from Spencer's Island in Nova Scotia. And honestly, the universe seemed determined to make this vessel everyone's problem from the very beginning. Her first captain died of pneumonia on her maiden voyage. The crew had to turn around and bring his body back to shore, which is definitely not the energy you want for your brand new ship. Then things went downhill from there. The Amazon collided with another vessel in the English Channel, then ran aground off Cape Breton Island in 1867. That damage was so extensive that the owners just basically threw up their hands and said, "Y'all come get it," sold it as a wrecked ship. Enter Richard W. Haynes, an American who bought this maritime disaster in 1868. He fixed her up and renamed her the Mary Celeste. He was trying desperately to rebrand this floating catastrophe, and honestly, good for him for trying. The ship got a massive $10,000 renovation in 1872. That added a second deck and increased the storage capacity. At this point, you'd think luck might have changed. Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs was nothing like the cursed reputation of the ship. Born in Massachusetts in 1835, this guy came from a maritime family and had built a solid reputation as a fair, competent captain. His crew respected him, which in 1872 was saying something because ship captains could be absolutely brutal. Briggs was also deeply religious and completely abstinent from alcohol. This detail becomes important later because it makes theories about drunken mutinies or crew disorders basically impossible. When Briggs bought a share of the Mary Celeste in 1872, he had the captain's cabin modified so his family could join him on the voyage to Genoa, Italy. His wife Sarah Elizabeth and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia Matilda were coming along for the journey. Their 7-year-old son Arthur stayed behind in Massachusetts to attend school. Now here's the thing about experienced sea captains. They don't risk their families' lives on a whim. If Briggs was bringing his wife and toddler on this voyage, he had complete confidence in both his ship and his crew. On November 7th, 1872, the Mary Celeste departed Pier 50 in New York City. Her cargo hold was packed with over 1,700 barrels of industrial-grade alcohol bound for Genoa. The ship carried 10 total people: Captain Briggs, his family, and 7 crew members. They initially waited out some rough water in New York Harbor before finally setting sail 2 days later. For the next couple of weeks, they battled harsh weather conditions across the Atlantic. The last entry in the ship's log was recorded November 25th, placing the Mary Celeste about 6 nautical miles away from the Azores. Then, silence. 10 days later, on December 5th, 1872, Captain David Morehouse of the British brig Dei Gratia spotted something strange in the distance. The Mary Celeste was sailing alone between the Azores and Portugal. But something was clearly wrong. Morehouse knew Captain Briggs personally, and he knew the Mary Celeste had left New York 8 days before his own ship. Should have reached the destination by now. Morehouse sent his chief mate, Oliver Devereux, and a boarding party to investigate. What they found was basically every sailor's nightmare. The ship was seaworthy, but completely abandoned. It was what Devereux later described as thoroughly wet mess, with about 3.5 feet of water in the hold, a destroyed compass, and a broken clock. But here's what made it truly eerie. Everything else was basically intact. 6 months' worth of food and water sat untouched. The crew's personal belongings were still in their quarters. The cargo of 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol was almost completely there, with only 9 barrels found empty. The ship was still under partial sail and could have kept sailing indefinitely, but every single person on board had vanished, along with the ship's lifeboat. The captain's navigation equipment was gone too. When the Dei Gratia crew sailed the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar, they expected a routine salvage hearing. Instead, they walked into a legal nightmare that would fuel conspiracy theories for decades. Frederick Solly Flood, Gibraltar's Attorney General, immediately suspected the Dei Gratia crew of murder or insurance fraud. He launched a 3-month investigation, interrogating the crew and examining every inch of the ship. Blood-like stains were forensically tested and proven not to be blood. No valuables had been taken. There was zero evidence of foul play. Despite finding nothing, the court awarded the Dei Gratia crew only 1/6 of the insured value of the ship and cargo. The suspiciously low payout was widely interpreted as an implicit guilty verdict, even though no charges were filed. The official inquiry that was supposed to solve the mystery instead created more questions and suspicions. Over the decades, people have proposed every explanation, from piracy to alien abduction. The piracy theory falls apart immediately because pirates don't typically leave cargo and personal belongings untouched. The mutiny theory makes no sense given Captain Briggs' stellar reputation and the absence of any signs of violence. Insurance fraud conspiracies have been suggested, but they're equally implausible. The owner, James Winchester, successfully refuted allegations that he over-insured the vessel. The idea that Captain Morehouse was in on some scheme is logistics impossibility, since the Dei Gratia was slower and left New York 8 days after the Mary Celeste. The supernatural theories, they've persisted because humans hate unsolved mysteries. Am I right? Giant sea monsters, alien abductions, and encounters with other ghost ships have all been proposed, along with ergot poisoning causing mass hallucinations. These fantastical explanations exist because when facts can't provide a simple answer, imagination will. The most scientifically sound theory centers on those 9 empty alcohol barrels. Conrad Byers, a maritime historian, theorized that these barrels, made of porous red oak, leaked due to a sea quake or rough weather. This filled the hold with flammable alcohol vapors. Dr. Andrea Sella at University College London demonstrated that a pressure wave explosion could have occurred. This type of explosion produces a dynamic wave of flame followed by instantly cold air, leaving no scorch marks or physical damage. Captain Briggs, who had never transported such dangerous cargo before, might have witnessed this terrifying burst of flame and immediately ordered everyone into the lifeboat, believing the entire ship was about to explode. The alternative theory involves a perfect storm of mechanical failures and human error. The ship had recently undergone major renovations, and construction debris may have clogged the pumps. With 3.5 feet of water in the hold and no way to accurately measure the flooding, Briggs might have believed the ship was sinking. The most heartbreaking part of the leading theory involves what happened after the crew abandoned ship. Captain Briggs likely ordered everyone onto the lifeboat, but kept it tethered to the Mary Celeste, planning to reboard once the perceived danger passed. A sudden squall or powerful wave could have snapped the tether, leaving the lifeboat adrift while the Mary Celeste, still under partial sail, continued its journey. The crew would have been left at the mercy of the ocean currents with no power or navigation. This fatal miscalculation, based on what seemed like a rational decision under extreme pressure, would have led to the deaths of all people on board the lifeboat. The Mary Celeste continued sailing for 13 more years under various owners, never fully escaping the reputation as a cursed vessel. She met her inglorious end in 1885 when Captain G.C. Parker deliberately wrecked her on a Haitian coral reef in a failed insurance fraud attempt. Even in death, this ship couldn't catch a break. What happened aboard the Mary Celeste probably wasn't supernatural, maybe, or even particularly mysterious by maritime standards. It was likely a series of unfortunate events, mechanical failures, and a split-second decision made by a good captain trying to protect his family. Sometimes the most ordinary explanations are the most tragic ones. The mystery persists not because we can't explain what happened, but because we prefer our ghost stories to be inexplicable rather than heartbreakingly human. And also, it was probably aliens.